had a minor family emergency happen that made me move it to today. But from now on, every Saturday, 4 p.m., there's going to be a Nerdtooine episode here on Junkie. The topics will vary. It's going to be more like a current events type thing where anything big in the nerd fandom verse happens, I'll talk about it. I do a lot of wrestling content, comic books, movies, and TVs when they're not on strike. I stand with the writers and the actors. So, I mean, I won't be talking about anything of a struck company's creation until that's over, but that will be once we come back. And I'm also writing my own comic book, as you can see on the screen up in the corner there. Here Walks Monsters. It is coming very soon. Just signed on a letterer last week to go in. We're getting him the final script and the high resolution high resolution art to him to get those lettered out for the ash can. We're gonna do a deluxe ash can. It'll be 10 pages. Normal ash can's about 7. I felt like there was enough world building in the first 7 for it to be like, hey, this is a cool book to read, but it's a zombie comic book, so I felt like to really draw people in, we needed to have at least one zombie fight. So I'm going with the deluxe ash can, which will be 10 pages, because that's I didn't plan. And to be honest with you, the ash can might get changed like when it comes to the actual issue, because I wasn't intending to have any zombie battles for the first few issues, because my story is a lot more about the humans in this world and how, in my opinion, if society disappears, we will all just turn into monsters. And for the most part, there's no sweeping declarations here, but I definitely wasn't planning on having a zombie fight that early. But it looks great and it fits the narrative I'm telling, so it might stay in, it might not. That's what an ash can's for. Ash cans can be changed. Ash can is not the beginning of issue 1. It sometimes becomes that, but there's a lot of times that things get changed. Like when The Last Ronin, one of the most popular and successful comic books of recent memory, first came out as a Kickstarter, almost every comic book shop that got them that was like, hey, this story's great, but we don't like the art. And then they went back and redesigned it, and then when they released it, it was a completely different look. And that can happen, and that's fine. So that's where we are there at that moment for that. So hopefully within the next few months, we might have an ash can ready to go for early release and on other platforms like Kickstarter. I'm actually going to talk to Waffle and see if maybe we can do a Kickstarter-esque campaign over here. I don't know if that can even work, but I'll have to talk to him about that. I just thought about that. I was like, wait a minute, maybe we could do something like a crowdfunding thing over here, because I've never used Kickstarter, and I don't really necessarily want to start. But that's not the point. But today we're going to talk about SummerSlam. SummerSlam was last night. It is the biggest show of the summer for WWE. It was a little lackluster in my opinion. I definitely think it had some top tier stuff, absolutely, but overall, I was asked to give it like a letter grade, and I gave it like a B minus, because the stuff they did well, they did very well, and then everything else was just like, eh. And there was 2 things that, like the battle royale they put in the last minute just to get that endorsement from Slim Jim. Listen, I get wanting to get endorsements. I'm snap it to a Slim Jim. Oh yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you want to get paid from a company just to put a match in? And they were able to help get LA Knight over even more than he already was by giving him the decisive victory. So that was fun, but it kind of dragged the entire pay-per-view down, because it just there was a whole bunch of superstars in the ring just fighting for like a good 3-4 minutes where you could barely tell what was going on. Like, that match should have been on a SmackDown. That didn't have to be on a pay-per-view event, and I understand why it was, because the endorsements. But hey, I mean, if you're looking at it just as me reviewing it, I mean that was out of place. And then the other thing that was really, really out of place and kind of honestly out of touch was the MMA style match between Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. I mean, there's a reason why MMA is an actual sport and you can bet on it, because any moment a strike could knock someone's lights out. When you have this, now it's not fake, but it is scripted content. Like, going in, they knew who was winning that match. So, like, you had to, like, do certain spots to get it there. And it's what WWE and all these pro wrestling it's entertainment. It's not an actual sport. I mean, you have to be extremely athletic and unbelievably skilled and talented to do it. But it's not a, like, that's why that they don't have legitimate bets on who's going to win in most auction houses, because it's scripted, and it can change at the last second, so you can't even make legitimate odds. There's a whole big thing. But so when you have this idea of an MMA style bout where it's either knockout or submission, so you mean submission, like there's no way to safely just knock someone out for the victory. You know what I mean? Like that, like, calling it the MMA rules, I didn't like that, and it just slowed the entire event down, and it didn't help anyone. Like, the idea of it was to help Ronda get Shayna over. I don't think it did that at all. And you know what, I'm like, this, from what I'm hearing, is Ronda Rousey's last match in the WWE. So if that is the case, then it put a very unsatisfying end to a very unsatisfying second run in the company for Ronda Rousey, because, like I said, it definitely didn't get anybody over. So, like, the idea was to, you know, make Shayna look really good, and I mean, yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm. They made it so. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, see, the thing is, and this is what when a lot of people complain, like, ask, like, oh, you're an adult, why do you even watch that? You know it's fake. It's not fake. These moves and things they're doing are real. They aren't put at full, you know, capacity, because a lot of those things would kill somebody. Like, if you took an actual pile driver without the person doing it protecting you, your neck is broken. Like, so the blood is real, but a lot of times it's not actually from a real wound, if that makes sense. Like, they had, like, it's, especially back in the day, they used to have razor blades. They used to cut themselves to bleed. You know, they'll get a chair shot and they'll go, oh, my head, and then all of a sudden they're bleeding. Now they don't do that. So anytime there's blood, yes. No, absolutely. And I was literally just about to get that. The only time you actually see blood now is when they're actually cut open. And a lot of times it's not intentional. Like for instance, like in the Hell in the Cell with Finn Balor and Edge, there was a point in the match where the doctor had to, like, literally get in the middle and, like, patch up Finn, because he took a ladder off the floor, like, right up here, and it was just gashed to the point where he was literally, like, fountaining blood on the mat. You know what I mean? Like, that was not intentional. They didn't do that. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of things they did really well with SummerSlam. The only two, like, there were two main issues were both, like I said, the Battle Royale, I think could have been and should have been probably on a regular event like SmackDown, and the MMA fight. Those two were the one things that were both not, like, they took Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus off of like, they were supposed to have their feud at SummerSlam, and they took that off to put in the Battle Royale. Now, they have kind of saved themselves a little bit, because what they're doing now is saying, we moved it to this SmackDown because it's going to be where she's from in Canada. And you know, Jay getting betrayed by Jimmy makes no sense. For me, when you look at this feud now, Like, the only way they're going to be, like, what they're going to do and spin it is they're going to say, oh, when I was down and out, you left me, and just to make sure that you could, you tried to go out for business for yourself. Second, I got hurt. That's what the angle they're going to spin. But it's bull. It's absolute bullshit because it makes no sense. Because when Roman and Jay had their sit down to discuss, what's going to happen when they talk about tribal combat, Jay said this was like when he says this is tribal combat. Roman looks at him and goes, "Do the elders know about this?" And then he said, "It was their idea, Oos." What was he supposed? Is he supposed to go against the elders, or are we just gonna forget that he said that? See, that they fumbled some of this storyline. This bloodline story was one of the greatest in the history. It was the greatest until they tried to milk it. It's a little bit too long. In my predictions segment that I did on my one of my other socials, I talked about the only way to save Roman's reign at this point, to make it legitimately one of the greatest of all time, and to save the bloodline story, would be to have everyone turn on Roman and him have to spend the next 6 to 8 months literally beating everybody who the Usos helped him beat on his own. And because one thing I've noticed, like, I don't like Roman Reigns as a heel character. I get why. I mean, it makes sense how they've built him up to be this tribal chief, unstoppable, like, juggernaut. I get that. But for me, my issue with it is I don't think that it's a great run, because literally his last title defense was WrestleMania last year. Hey, well, listen, I'm going to be every Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be on here talking about current events. This week, I'm going straight. I'm doing pretty much SummerSlam because it was just a huge event. But next week, I'll do current events in the nerd industry, as well as probably talking about what happens on Raw, SmackDown. And I've just started watching AEW. I might actually start doing live AEW watch-alongs on here. I don't know. I'm working on getting all the dotting all the T's and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So, and I definitely think they're going to try to get him the longest championship run. So the issue with Roman, this is the biggest issue, is that we all know he's not getting beat anywhere but WrestleMania. It does not matter who I said in my predictions, I was like, literally, the dude could have the entire roster come out and assist Jay, and he would find somehow they would have Roman still win. The dude could call on the Avengers and still get beat by Roman solo. Unless it's WrestleMania. WrestleMania is the only way he's losing this. So I have not done the math. I don't know how long his reign will be when we get to the WrestleMania next year. So I can't say for sure if I think they're going to, because I think he's losing it this coming up WrestleMania, because what I've been hearing is that he's ready to take a substantial break from wrestling, do some Hollywood stuff. I think the strike is actually part of the reason why they might be pushing this along, because he can't go look for that work, so they're probably like, all right, let's keep this going. But for me, when it comes to Roman Reigns, he has not had a dominant run. He's had a heel long run. That's it. I mean, when you're talking about Dominic Mysterio has had more title defenses as the NXT North American champion than Roman Reigns has this year. He won it like a month ago. That's a problem. And that's why they had to create the other title belt on Raw for Seth Rollins to have, because when your champion's not defending, what is he even? Is he even the champion at that point? I mean, now the dude's got 3 belts. He's got the Universal Championship belt. He's got the Undisputed Championship belt. Now he has his own new Undisputed Championship belt. So yes, now that match and how they handled the women's championship match is what, and Logan Paul versus Ricochet is what really helped make this pay-per-view entertaining, even with the missteps that they had. That match, it made no sense while it was happening. Like, okay, so he's trying to beat Cody. Why is he just continuously throwing him out of the ring and having the countouts? It was so that Cody can show that he's not giving up no matter what. He's going to keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Now, when you look at this from a storytelling element, it makes sense. But apparently, what I'm hearing is that Brock actually went off script with that. So because we bring up the real versus fake. What Brock was doing to him was not fake. That shit hurts. And he kept getting up. And I think there was a real, like, besides the storyline of ending this chapter, the Brock Lesnar story is now over. I think it was a genuine, like, the human Brock Lesnar, not the character, was like, okay, this dude is something else. And you know what? I'm going to give him, because apparently that was all off script. That wasn't supposed to happen, apparently. And that smile that Cody had kind of gave that away. When I watched, I was like, ooh. Like, he looked genuinely like, wow, he really did just give me that. Like, that's impressive. That Brock, now, see, a lot of people talk shit about Brock and what he's done this or done that. I will stand firm on my belief that whether or not it actually was, anytime Brock has ever pulled his weight, it was for the better of the WWE. Whether that's right or wrong, that could be up for debate. But I truly think Brock has always been the type to think that he might know better and he's going to use his power to make that happen. Also, speaking of Dom, can we say he... Okay, so he's a heel. It's old and tired at this point, but he's a heel. That's what's going to happen. I mean, we saw it last night with Seth Rollins, and I made I do like video recordings of like the event, and like I'm gonna try to do live watch throughs, but I had so many issues with all the different platforms I was trying to use. That's why I'm gonna try to do it over here on Junkie. You guys haven't seen me much on here, but I ever since it even became a actual app like this, I've been a fan of pretty much everything it has. It's just beautiful. But back to Dom. When it comes to Dominic, he is unbelievably gifted in the ring. Once he gets more experience, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. He is really good. And his heel work, he doesn't even have to try. He just walks up. He touches a mic. Boo! He can't talk. And there's something to be said about that. Now, my biggest issue with Dom is his choice of words when he calls his dad a deadbeat. At the very least, let's just put our mind in this heel Dominic Mysterio mind, okay? If everything he thinks is true, he would be an absentee dad versus a deadbeat because he never went hungry. He's now in the WWE because of his father. So deadbeat is the wrong word. It's always bothered me because the thing about wrestling is, as adults, we know this is scripted. We know it's not real competition. But when they are able to make us believe that it is when they get truly beautiful moments. And that's what I watch WWE for, or wrestling in general, is for those moments where you forget for a second. Like, you're like, whoa, who's going to win this? Because you don't, it's that suspension of disbelief. Like, when you go to watch the Avengers on screen, you're not like, yeah, there's no guy who can turn into a green monster Hulk and smash things. This is stupid. This is obviously fake. Like, it's all the same. It's all stories. Right, but to get Dom's point, to have one parent always on the road. Right, and that's what I'm saying. Absentee. Like the term, like I'm a writer, so the terminology and the actual meaning of things really is a stickler for me. Like he can definitely have that same exact, but just use the right terminology. That bothers the hell out of me. Like, because again, he provided for him. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he was like, a deadbeat is someone who's not in your life and doesn't contribute to your life, or even worse, contributes horribly, like oh, let's go to Chuck E. Cheese, and then has his girlfriend there. You know what I mean? Like that's a deadbeat. You know what I mean? Not paying child support. That's what a true deadbeat would be. He was an absentee father at worst. And that is what they should have said, and that bothers me to my core. That they use the term deadbeat but really didn't even click. It didn't even click until he said the same thing to Cody. He was like, "You're just like a deadbeat dad, just like my father, because you're not there for your daughter." And I'm like, it's absentee. You're saying that because it bothered me from day one that's what his whole heel character started off as, just raise a deadbeat dad. I'm like, why? And I didn't realize why it bothered me. It's because the terminology. They use the wrong terminology, and I'm a very big stickler for stuff like when someone says like, "Oh, you never did this." If I did it once, that is a completely wrong statement. I will fight you to that till the end of the day, and until I have to go to sleep that night. I hate when people use words that are incorrectly, and like that. That's why I didn't like Dom as a heel initially. But he's won me over as this heel because even in this fake arena, he's the fakest person out there. And I don't know why, but I love it now. Like, I absolutely adore it. Like, I used to be like, oh, here comes Dom. There's a whole bunch of booze. Let's get this over with. Now I'm like, let's see how he does this time. Like, I actually enjoyed that. But when we were talking about earlier about the Seth versus Finn match, I loved the match. It was fantastic. I like what they did up until the very end of the match, because it makes no sense that Damian doesn't cash in the Money in the Bank right there. The entire Judgment Day is out there. Even if Finn decides to pout in the corner because he messed up again, the first time you can blame it on Priest a little bit. This was all Finn's fault. Even if he cries and whines in the corner, you still have the entire Judgment Day there. Seth has just gone through a grueling match. Why did they not just jump in the ring, beat him down, and then cash in? It makes... So I definitely think Finn is going to turn on the entire Judgment Day, or the Judgment Day is going to turn on Finn. I haven't decided truly what I think is going to happen, because it was clear as day what Priest was doing. He said, use it, hit him. And he's like, what are you doing with this? We're sticking with plan A. Like, okay, but why? Like, it's just to push the story along, which is fine. And again, this is all about stories. I'm okay with telling stories. Right. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's all about, like, they're telling a better story here, but that scenario, they should have at least had Priest get knocked down and Rollins had to run out the ring like he did in the last pay-per-view. Because it makes no sense for him to be gloating in front of the guy who could literally cash in right now, whoop his ass with 3 other people before they ring the bell, and pin him for a win. It made no sense. And and you could even, it extends that when later on in the pay-per-view, that exact thing happened with Bianca Belair and Io Sky. Like, it made no sense to have this almost identical scenarios, outnumbered after a hellacious match, and for one to cash in, not the other. Besides just because it's scripted and it's a storyline. They should have made that more clear as why he didn't. Or like, hell, maybe Seth grabbed the belt, the Money in the Bank, and threw it down threw it into the stands or whatever. You know what I mean? Just something so that he couldn't, like, there was no real reason to do it. So I thought I got played by myself because I let rumors of what the WWE is talking about affect my own thoughts because I was sure Io was going to cash in before when I did my predictions, but I didn't. I said I don't know I don't think she will. I think she'll cash in and fail because the rumor going around was that because every single time the Money in the Bank has been won by a female, they've cashed in and won. There has not been a single time in the female Money in the Bank's existence where a cash in failed. So the rumor was that they wanted the women to fail just so it wasn't 100% of the time. This story was so much better, and I would have probably predicted it exactly like that if I didn't let that rumor mess me up. Yeah, see, and this was the only way to take it off Asuka, though. Like it had to be something like that where it was a fluke, like super Belair moment. And I'm gonna say this: I am not happy with the fact that they made it look like that injury was real. Like the way she screamed. I was like, yo, she just broke her knees. It's over. Like, and then to have her limp to the ring, like, if you can do a 450 splash, I think your knee is nowhere near as bad as you were pretending it was. Unless you got, like, shot up with freaking the heart-shaped herb from Wakanda. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes no sense. Like, they went a little too far. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. So, and Belair. So, I think we can all agree that Belair is turning heel now and joining whatever they're going to call the new Street Profits. I mean, the Hurt Business. Because when the Street Profits came out and like just destroyed the tag teams, that was, and in the suits, that was them coming out as, hey, we're with Bobby Lashley, we're heels, we're here to do two things: chew some bubblegum and kick some ass, and we're all out of bubblegum. And it just makes sense. She's actually in real life married to oh man, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Not Angelo Dawkins. Damn, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. I sort of hope that Bailey. I wouldn't mind that. I think that'd be interesting. I don't know if they'll do it. I just don't see that being Bailey's something that Bailey would really be okay with. I mean, she has done more for the women's division than just about anyone, and she is one of the reasons why Io Sky is the champion right now. And not even so much as the character in ring, it's what she's done politicking in the background. Because apparently the rumor was that they wanted her to get over and win Money in the Bank, and she's like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Have Io win. Bayley's done everything that she needs to do. She's a first ballot WWE Hall of Famer, no questions asked. So she's trying to use her clout and her power to get over as many women as she can. Yeah. Well, and I really like that whole angle with Shotzi is due to the fact that her real life sister is diagnosed with cancer, so she shaved in solidarity with her, and I'm glad they put it into a storyline, because to have her Shotzi, the one with the green hair, to just show up with a shaved head would have made no sense. You know what I mean? So they putting that into a storyline and not, because what would have happened if they didn't put in a storyline? They would be she would have been forced to explain what's going on with her wrestling sister, and that's not what they wanted to do, which is smart. Well done for doing that, because they just wrote it right into a storyline, so no one goes, "Oh, why'd you shave your head?" Well, I finished shaving it because she jacked it up in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, that was really well done. Yeah. I definitely will give props where it's due. That was definitely a good move, because you don't want to be that person, that, because if you're like for instance, like take a step back and think, if you're one of the pundits who's actually in the rooms asking the questions that we see on all these websites, when you get the quotes. That person would have had to ask. You know what I mean? Now with this, it's clear to see what's going on, and they're not going to push it. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm really happy they did that. That's not something that you see often. because a lot of times the storylines are just for the pushing of certain like things from the WWE. This is one of those instances where they were like, you know what, we're gonna look out for Shotzi here. What she's doing is great. Let's honor her. Let's write a story in for that. And then not only that, but it also gives her a legitimate like feud, which can be explored in further matches, which will give her more time. You know what I mean? Because a lot of like I know of Shotzi because that's my type of girl. So it didn't take much for me to go, okay, I need to watch this person. But I remember her in NXT. And I remember, and she's got a lot of flack recently. She's had a couple big botches in matches. Botches in matches. Just that rhymes. It's, and they weren't like bad. Like they Boca Manina moment. What? Oh, Boschmania. Yeah, it didn't. I mean, they weren't good mistakes. Don't get me wrong, but like, it wasn't like it was because of lack of try. Like you can, and I hate when people like who watch wrestling and like will complain about, oh, they made a botch. They made a botch. Do you realize what these people are doing? Like there was a clear botch in the Logan Paul Ricochet match. When they did that standing Spanish fly, they were supposed to both land on their feet, no problem. But they both kind of like stumbled and got up and then kept going. That's a botch. But are you going to complain about that? No. Because it was an insane spot and you're like, oh, that was close enough. So what's the difference between when someone else does any other spot? You know what I mean? Like the things that she botched were difficult maneuvers. It's not like she botched a clothesline or botched a drop kick. It was a specific, like there was much easier like things that she could have done that botched, and you're like, okay, I get that. But he's on these big grand stages trying to go all out, because the thing is, if you don't get over with the WWE universe, the WWE management is very quick to just kind of brush you aside. So she's trying to do everything she can to stay in the limelight, and I don't blame her at all. Okay, right. So in regards to that table spot, if Jay wasn't being so careful, it would have looked better. Yeah, absolutely. You're not trying to like. These people don't actually try to hurt each other. I mean, sometimes they do. I mean, there are work shoots, you know what I mean? But in most cases, these are people who respect each other, and they want to keep everyone safe. I still thought it was insane, and I loved it. Like what what really scared me was when Logan does his like. Was it slingshot clothesline, I think they call it? A slingshot lariat. When you do that slingshot lariat over the top rope outside to Ricochet, he was literally inches from probably breaking his neck. Like, it was really close. Like, it was really close. Right. Oh, my God. How was it not a DQ? Like when the second Cody picked up the stairs, it should have been disqualification. Simple as that. Or you can even make the case for when Brock put him through the table, the announcer's table. Why? You know what I mean? Like that's why they should have done a stipulation. What they did would have worked so good for a last man standing match. I mean, they could have put a stipulation in to make what they did that much better. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. But if they would have put a simple stipulation to make it a last man standing match, everything they did would have been legal. And it would have elevated the match. Because then you understand from the get-go why Brock was doing that. Because he was trying to get him to... Because in that, you can't even get a pin. You know what I mean? Maybe that's why, because they wanted Cody to get the pin, to beat him clean. You know, I mean, I get that as well. 3 crossroads into a pin. That's epic. That's how you beat the Beast. I have a weekly podcast that's available on Spotify and YouTube. Every week, drops Sunday at 11. Every Sunday. But yeah, I'm going to be on here a lot more. I'm going to be posting a lot more. So all the stuff that I've been posting everywhere else is also going to be on here. So this is definitely going to be... hey, thank you. I've been doing it now for like 3 years almost. You know, I actually, this is one of the first times I've done one live where there are people like asking and contributing. So I appreciate you. I mean, I'm usually talking to myself. Like, that was a great match. You know what? It was a great match. Wait until you see the change we're dropping. Ooh. Waffle in here dropping some bombshells. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I should have been posting and doing this from the get for a while. I'm definitely going to... Oh, listen. Me and Waffles, we go way back. We knows each other. We can make that happen. Listen, I would never ever grill a waffle. I might deep fry it, but I'm not gonna grill it. That is a waste of a waffle. So prepare yourself, Mr. Waffle. If you come on the podcast, you might get deep fried. Oh boy. But yeah, and you know, we get back to the WWE. Like, I've noticed that it's a lot easier now to complain about the stuff that happens in WWE or anything in general. You know, so you gotta look at, like, I bet you if they had social media back during the Attitude Era, there'd be just as many people who are hating on it. Just for the fact, because let's call it like it is. On most platforms, the good takes, the intelligent conversations, all that usually doesn't get as much traction as somebody being a douche. It's so much because then people are going to stitch it and they're going to reply to it and that's all the engagement for the algorithms. So it's just easier to take off being that guy. Well, I could play that guy. I even actually made, I was thinking about making some fake content like that, to be the parody guy of them doing that type of thing, and I chose against it because in my head I'm like, watch me get my videos take off and people think that's really me and that's what I get known for, even though it was clearly a parody. I'm just my mental psyche does not need that. I don't need that at all. So I just decided not to, just be me, which is Nerdtooine. One of the I'll say one of the most unique people in the fandoms that you might meet. My skills are wide. Let's just say that. I can wear many hats. But overall, when we look at, this pay-per-view SummerSlam, it was solid, and the Brock and Cody stands out. The Ricochet and Logan Paul stands out. I love the fact that they got both men over by having Ricochet look really, really good, about to win, and then him do some heel shit and knock him with the brass knucks. That was the only way that could go over well for both people. I also have to say that triple threat with Bianca, Asuka, and Charlotte Flair, there were a couple spots where, and that right there is where I was thinking about making the jokes, because there were some spots where they didn't connect at all. Like the moonsault from Charlotte out of the ring to Asuka did not touch her, and Asuka still played it like she did. And then literally the next spot, Asuka goes on the top rope and does like a natural selection type move and doesn't hit any of it. and Charlotte's like, I'm dead. I'm like, okay. I was like, here, I'm going to do a fake. See, look, this is why no one cares about women's wrestling, because this stuff's right here. Like, and it was like, at that moment, I was like, okay, that wasn't very nice. I could totally see why they would make content on that. And I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of even making a parody off it. So, yeah, that's why I kind of just, sat back and just enjoyed the match for what it was. Bianca doing that 450 splash while Asuka was in the figure eight. That spot right there was top 5 of the entire pay-per-view. So I definitely am not going to complain about that. The only, like I said, the really 2 issues was that Battle Royale. It could have been done anywhere. It was really just to make LA Knight get a pay-per-view win or a premium live event win, which is fine. I don't have any issue with that. You know what I mean? I don't but to push off Becky and Trish, and I'll be honest with you, Trish needs to go. No, thank you, Trish. You did a lot for the women's movement, and all power to you. That's why you're a WWE Hall of Famer. But I think now we can all, if we all literally sit back and think about this, was she ever a very good wrestler? I mean, her move, like her Stratisfaction, is only looks good because the people who are helping her do it. Her kicks always looked a little wonky in me. I mean, again, there's a difference between greatness and influential. Trish Stratus is one of the most influential superstars in the history of wrestling. Yes. She is not one of the greatest female wrestlers technique-wise in the WWE or wrestling as a whole. That might be a hot take, but it's true. I mean, if you look at her best feuds, she was carried through those by Lita and Mickey James. Most of her other feuds fell flat. I mean, that's just me. I maybe I'm wrong. That's my opinion, but I Becky Lynch is one of the greatest of all time. No argument. Anyone who can sit there and argue that Becky Lynch is not one of the greatest of all time either doesn't watch wrestling or is a hater for no reason. Because if you look at her body of work, there is no question. Absolutely none. Absolutely none. But, like her and Zoe Stark, I like that because Zoe's very talented as well, and she needs to get over. A lot of the people who get drafted from NXT usually flounder on the main roster because they don't have any real plans for them. This was not bad. I like that. Okay, so I looked it up. Roman won on April 3rd, 2022. The WrestleMania in Philly is April 6th, 2024. He will lose the title at WrestleMania. He will be champion for 733. He surpassed 1,000-day reign already. He's over 1,000. Because the reign starts when he won the, I think, Universal title. Because remember, he unified the titles. Because he had one, and then he beat Brock Lesnar to unify him. So he became the Universal undisputed heavyweight champion. So, is that his run starts when he beat, I think, Drew McIntyre during the pandemic, when he came back from the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I didn't start watching full time again until last year. I was a huge fan as a kid. I even went to Armageddon one year. It was the year, I don't remember what year it was, but it was the big match on the card was the best 2 out of 3 falls, Triple H for HBK. And I remember vividly when he had the chain, the barbed wire 2x4, and he walked up to the flames. I was sitting so close that it got super hot. Like, it felt bad. Yeah. No, it was hold on. Let me look it up. Roman Reigns. So his current run is 1,071 days. Okay, I'm looking at something that says he became a WWE Women's Champion. Okay, that's funny. He's definitely not been Women's Champion. Yeah, because he's such a diva. Oh my god. All right. Yeah, the running joke is that he's gonna retire as Universal Champion. So he's the 5th longest, apparently. I'm gonna do some research, and get back to you next week for sure on the exact number. But yeah, he initially was the heavyweight champion. No, he was the Universal Champion. And then Brock was the... So he merged it against Brock. It was when he beat Brock. I think that was... Was it SummerSlam? Well, I mean... Let's be honest. I mean, I like Solo, but he can be so much more than what he is. Right now, he's just an Umaga clone. When he was in NXT, he was like his own person that just happened to have a similar moveset. In the main roster, he is just literally an Umaga clone. Like and his Umaga's actual son, I think Fatila Fatu, I think is his name. He's working right now in Booker T's promotion. His son might be better than him because he seems to have the same strength, but he's like, so his son is basically a cross between Jay and Solo. He has the maneuverability and the high flying ability of Jay and Jimmy for that matter. But he's bigger. Like his Samoan drop is the same one his dad did, where he would throw him up in the air and catch him and do the move. Same thing with his spike. He literally picks the dude up off the ground to spike him. It's scary. Like he has the potential to be the best out of all of them. like without question. Look him up. I can't think of his first name all of a sudden, but yeah, he's a beast, an absolute beast, and WWE should be doing everything they can to make sure they get him soon, because I would, if they really wanted to make Roman Reigns like end run correctly, like they should have him come in and beat him. Yeah. Yep. He definitely, yeah, he's got the strength of a brutal strongman, but he can fly. And not just only like off the top. I mean, like the way he moves around the ring is of a cruiserweight. Like just super quick moves. And Solo, like he's a bigger dude, and he's still fast. Don't get me wrong, but like there's something to be said about how loud it is when he runs across the ring versus some of the lighter competitors. It just hits different. I don't know. And absolutely nothing against Solo in that regard. It's his character, and I love it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But if you talk about who has a higher ceiling, it would be the guy that can move as well as like I could see Solo and Fatu going toe to toe, and it makes sense. Like they could go blow for blow, and like not for nothing, but Solo can move too, and Solo flies. I mean, Solo ain't no bitch. I'm not saying he is, but I definitely think that they would be, but they should. I want them to get Solo runs, and I feel bad for Jimmy and Jay that while first ballot Hall of Famers because of their tag team work, it's taking this long to give them a chance at a solo run. And you had to break them up to do so. I mean, it's really not a good scenario. I mean, they're so talented, and they should definitely have a longer run as solo stars, but it does not look like they're gonna get one. I mean, they're gonna have. I mean, I would bet that Jimmy and Jay headline the first night of WrestleMania this year. I would definitely say that is probably going to happen, which should be pretty crazy because that means they headline both first nights of WrestleMania for consecutive years, which I don't think anyone's done. Granted, they didn't always have two nights, so who knows at this point what they're going to do. But yeah, this definitely been it's been a nice run for the Bloodline. But I am definitely ready to see it go. What's up, crazy lady? How you doing? Not too bad, not too bad. We were just been talking about SummerSlam and all the different storylines that came from it. I was in heading towards the conclusion of my sermon. Welcome to the Church of Nerdtooine. I am your father. I am your father. Search your feelings, you know it to be true. Well, now that was unexpected. Definitely didn't plan that, but that's okay. But yeah, so this you're gonna see me every week on Junkie doing a like live give and take podcast episodes. Could be about wrestling, could be about comics, could be about movies or TV shows. Once the SAG-AFTRA and the writer's strike is over, and they finally pay their writers and their actors. It's gonna be Saturdays. I was supposed to do this yesterday, but I had a minor, not to worry, nothing bad happened, but a family emergency, and I had to move it to today. But yeah, every Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're gonna do like a live podcast on here on Junkie. So that being said, I'm gonna But speaking of solo run, Umaga Sun versus the Ring General. Oh, so Umaga versus Gunther would be one of the greatest matches. All right, let's say this. It would be one of the greatest matches if it was going to be allowed to be that. Because you got to realize, same scenario with Roman when it comes to Gunther. Gunther's beating the Honky Tonks record. Period. That's happening. Unless, the only way he doesn't is if Gunther gets hurt. Only way. So if you have it after he's beat the record, then it could be a great match. Because then you can actually be believable that Solo could beat him. Because until that happens, anyone who goes up against him is cannon fodder. And that's the problem with WWE and the new philosophy, it seems, for long runs to be more, important. I would say, and right now, it's different for Gunther because he's putting on classic after classic after classic and defending his title all the time. So his run is legitimately on the pace to be the greatest Intercontinental Championship run of all time. Undisputed. Like, if he continues to do banger after banger after banger after banger on this run, then yeah. Okay, so it was a good match until the end. On a slip. Gunther made him slip, so it's not like Drew slipped on his own, but it was he got his nuts wrung and then into one powerbomb, and he can dominate the entire match until then. No, and we all knew that Drew wasn't beating him. It wasn't bad. Like I said, but they could it was a decent match that had a bad ending. Same thing with the if you did 2 power bombs, all right, yeah, that makes sense because Gunther's power bombs are let's put it this way: if I took one Gunther power bomb, even as safe as he is, because there's been talk, I've heard a lot of reports from reputable sources that the entire locker room loves working with Gunther, even though he hurts them because he does hit hard. The chops are legitimately painful, but he's safe. He's one of the safest wrestlers that people are saying. He makes it look destructive, and while it's safe. Even with him being safe, one of those power bombs and I'm probably dead. Fold it up like a freaking accordion, throw him in the box, he's done. Forget about it. Oh yeah, but and it's not just that. It's especially on people who wrestle him with bare chest. You literally start to see the welts. Drew McIntyre, he literally hit him so hard that Drew McIntyre started bleeding. Legit smacks. These things, and that's why I think he resonates and is believable as this unstoppable force. Yeah. But it's still safe, that's the good thing about it. But we knew Drew wasn't going to beat him. I mean, it's just not going to happen because he's breaking that the Honky Tonk Man's record. Simple as that. But when it comes to Roman, he's breaking all these records, but he's not defending his title. His last title defense was WrestleMania last year. Wait, no, this year. Yeah, this year. This is the first one. So for me, yes. Will he have one of the longest runs of all time? Yes. Will he go down as one of the greatest heels of all time? Yes. Is his reign that impressive? Not if you ask me. And I think there's an easy way to fix it and make it solidified as one of the greatest runs of all time if they do it right. If they have everyone leave him and he has to do it on his own, he beats all comers by himself and shows I could have done it the whole time by myself, but I'm the man. I don't have to. You know what I mean? That's how you do it. That's how you make him have one of the greatest runs of all time, because then every single win is justified as I just didn't want to have to work so hard because I could. As you see, I beat him, and him. Without anyone's help, I am still Roman Reigns, So I definitely think they could fix it and make it legitimately one of the greatest runs, if not the greatest run of all time. But for it to be longer doesn't necessarily mean it's better. Ladies, do you agree? Just I couldn't help it. I could not help myself. I thought that was too funny to not say. It was still safe, but even though we knew, yeah, Gunther. Every time I watch him, I believe he does earn, yes, 100%. And that's why I'm saying, like with Gunther, to have him beat, unseen and for legit in my predictions, I said that Gunther was going to get help from Imperium, and then the Brawling Brutes would come out and try to help, and they would unintentionally cost Drew the win. I did not think they were going to have Gunther beat him clean by himself. It's believable, and I'm okay with it. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't think they were going to do it. Definitely didn't think they were going to do it. But, and I had this, I thought that was going to be in my head, that was going to be the heel turn for Drew. Because the good guys came out to try to help him, and then they screwed him over, and then he destroys them. I thought that's the route they were going to go. I think that would have been a better route to go, but it is not necessarily the only route to go. Right. True. Yeah. I mean, if you get your nuts rung on the top rope, especially being, I think he's like, isn't he like almost 300 pounds of like solid muscle? That's gravity and it's going to mess you up. What up, Eagles? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a bad ending to the match by any means, but I think that one should not have gone over clean, because it makes, even though it didn't make Drew look bad, a heel turn or something of that nature at that time, or even he got screwed over, would have been better. But we're arguing good versus great. I mean, everything can't be, maybe they didn't do that way because they didn't want it to overshadow other matches on the card. You could argue all of these things. I'm not one of the people in the producing room, so I don't know. I have no idea. You know what I mean? What the reasoning for some of these calls were. I just don't agree with them on the face value. But who knows? I mean, this is a very new territory we're in, because they're making NXT a actual like branch again, and not like just developmental. So that is gonna change a lot of things, because there's some superstars in NXT right now that are just waiting. They need to bring back Survivor, the Survivor Series with all three brands. One of my favorite like things to watch is the NXT versus Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series match. Oh my God, it's so good. Also, people in the producing room need to back check better when the Ravers Dom match. They shouldn't have. I mean, there's a lot. Listen, there's a lot of things that they've done wrong in that feud. I think the main issue is that it happened too late in Ray's career. Ray can still go out there and put on a great match. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the fact that he can still do what he does at his age and look as good as he does, it's astounding. But he's not the Rey Mysterio that can go up against a Batista and win. You know what I mean? Like, he has a limit to the matches that you can believe, that he's going to win. And when you bring Dom in at that point, he didn't have enough on his own, and that's why they had to put him with Judgment Day, because people started to hate Dominic because he was the babyface with his dad winning championships, and then to put him on Judgment Day changed everything. Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. I did not even know that. I'm going to have to make a post about that. I'm going to have to look into that. That's bad. that's that's really bad. Apparently, I'm complaining about the wrong things. Oh man. All right. Thank you all for stopping by today. We're gonna wrap it up with my final takes on SummerSlam. And make sure you check me out on, of course, here and all my other platforms. Make sure you are ready every Saturday because it's gonna come like this every Saturday at 4 p.m. Probably gonna do about an hour show or so, depending on the topic. I might have guests. Moving forward, we will definitely see how it goes. But this is definitely a great first podcast episode here on Junkie. First of many. But for me, SummerSlam, it was a very enjoyable episode. A very enjoyable premium live event. It wasn't fantastic as I think it could have been. But the few matches like the Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, the Ricochet and Logan Paul, the triple threat for the women's title, and the finale, even though it didn't end very well, all lifted it up high enough to be a very good premium live event. Definitely looking forward to seeing what they do on Raw and SmackDown this week. That's probably going to be some of the stuff we talk about next week on here. But until next time, ladies and gents, thank you for stopping by. This is Nerdtooine signing off.